you were eating cheese or dairy products, they would be, if they're not aged properly, not aged at least 100 days, they're still going to have significant amounts of lactose. Well, only 23% of the world has an enzyme called lactase. So, if we're unfortunate enough to eat one of these meals, it would be nice if our digestive enzyme had some lactase too. So we could at least digest this meal that may cause us to gain body weight, but at least we could digest it well. So all these enzymes are needed, and when they're not in place, these foods may not digest properly, and we may start seeing an increase in body weight or an increase in body toxicity because we cannot properly metabolize the foods we've eaten. So, probably to a young person, the most important change is going to be mineral support. For a person over 21, the most important change in 21st century nutrition is going to be the use of digestive enzyme support. Now, these should be live source. I prefer them to be from plant-based rather than from an animal. And now we get into the issue of supplements. If we have a supplement, a digestive enzyme, if it's in a tablet, we know it's had to undergo a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, and it has to have some glue to hold it together. None of these are very desirable. So I can't say that I'm a fan of fast-acting or other types of tablets. Okay? They are 1/2 the cost of producing a capsule. Now the capsule, gelatin is what was first produced. But if we took a handful of gelatin capsules, they can release almost a glue-like substance and inhibit whatever is in the capsule from being uptaken. So they have come up with a vegetable capsule. So when this guy disintegrates, you now have fiber to assist the body in removing all the food and no interference with the uptake of the nutrient. But the price is a vegetable capsule costs twice as much as a gelatin capsule, which costs twice as much as a tablet. So you will see in nutrition lots of tablets. My opinion on a tablet is it wouldn't be my choice, but if it was short term, if you were going to use this for a month or two, I don't think it's a big deal. But if you were going to use it for a lifetime, now it's a very, very big deal. You want to look for solvent-free vegetable capsules, and there's another problem. In order to get the stuff in the capsule manufacturers love to use what is known as excipients. And for ages, these haven't had to be on the label, and they still, I don't believe, are mandatory for the label, and there's a couple of real bad ones. One of them is known as talcum powder. A talcum powder in Europe is called a cancer-causing agent, a carcinogen. In the United States, it's called a suspect carcinogen. Okay? And the US FDA allows 1 to 2% talcum powder per capsule. I really think you want to be sure that whatever you take, especially long-term, isn't made with talcum powder. And there are a variety of other excipients, that's what they're called, agents that are really not good for you but just get something into the capsule. Magstearate's not one of my favorite ones, and what I usually tell people is if you can't pronounce it and it's an excipient, it's probably not okay. I think I've never seen that to be untrue. Maybe in the future it'll be shown there'll be an exception. Studies in the Journal of Microbiology have suggested that if you were to take a supplement when you eat cooked food, you could preserve your own digestive enzyme capacity well into the 200s, beyond any reasonable lifespan. So in other words, this step doesn't cause the atrophy of your own capacity. It allows you to maintain that capacity and use it for what the body had planned, which is occasionally dealing with some problem in the body. And that's how it should be preserved. Also, if we could take a step out of the human genome discoveries, we have learned that the genes, for the most part, are soft genes. That means that harmful genes can be expressed by demethylation or deacetylation. These processes can strip a methyl group from a cell in such a way as to express a cancer gene known as an oncogene or a virus gene. The Human Genome Project has shown that our 2% of the gene deck defines us. 1/10 of 1% separates us from a pig. 35% of the gene deck is virus. And these viruses can be expressed by a chemical insult. A good example of a chemical insult, charbroiled meat. So we go out for our wonderful little charbroiled cooking, and the fat drips off the meat, touching the flame, and now the flame comes back and touches the meat, triggering a heterocyclic amine. And I know you can't pronounce it, it's not important, but let's say you want to still have charbroiled meat. Great. What you want to do is use your 21st century knowledge. You'll make your coals in a pyramid. When they're flaming hot, you'll put them in a circle, put the meat in the middle. When the fat drips, no flame comes up and touches the meat. So we can solve these problems, but we got to use our head, and we have to stop ignoring these very great dangers that have been identified in the last 25 or 30 years. So there's many of these, but I'm just touching on a few of them. So whatever it is you like to do in your lifestyle, study it. Whatever it is that's unique to you. If you're always eating charbroiled meat, you got a challenge, and you need to take a look at that. And as we move through our life, things change. If we want to express healthy genes, we want to load methyl groups. But what's the best way we can load methyl groups? Betaine hydrochloride. So instead of just taking enough to digest that meal, maybe we take twice as much to try to express a healthy gene and suppress the harmful gene. And we stop eating things that are challenging our methyl capacity. One of the big challenges to our methylation at the cell is air pollution. And to understand the cell, these methyl groups can be donated by our hydrochloric acid that we produce or by taking hydrochloric acid. They can also be donated by eating sulfur-based amino acid-rich food. Translated to English, kidney beans, pinto beans, black beans, and even buckwheat. All of these guys could be a donor if you can digest them. And if you live in a highly polluted city like Los Angeles or Mexico City, you have a much greater need to satisfy these very critical sulfur-based amino acids. And if you notice throughout the world, and throughout Mexico, one of the staples is beans. And the two things you notice is they never have a runny nose. One of the signs you may have a challenge in the amount of sulfur-based amino acids, and you never see them with an anxiety attack. Two of the markers that they have really got these sulfur-based amino acids down well. And so if those are one or more of your problems, you may want to boost your diet in these key nutrients. But what is the air pollution role in a more broad spectrum view? Yes, we can donate these sulfur-based amino acids, and we can try to minimize our demethylation at the cell, but the burden of this air pollution is on our lungs and the regeneration of the lungs, and so we really should consider an air purifier, especially while we sleep. The primary nutrient that the human body consumes is air, 21 to 23 times as much as any other nutrient. So if we can just take ourselves to a bedroom that's sealed off well and an effective air purifier is working, and we exit the air pollution of Los Angeles or Mexico City or wherever we are, we can, in 8 hours, the Environmental Protection Agency tells us this is a very viable way to maintain the best health for your lungs and to reduce the body burden of this pollution on the whole body. But I think many people forget how critical air is as a nutrient. And so we wouldn't be complete in 21st century nutrition if we didn't cover the fact that we are very abusive with air, water, and our foods, and we need to take a look at air. And so now what I want to do is stop and give you a macro view of all your nutrition. So first we've talked about what is the fuels for this human body. Air, number one. Water, number two. We haven't talked much about water. We really need to have purified water. And unfortunately, as a